You thief? You manipulative thief. Patricia's voice echoed through the dining room, making the crystal chandelier tremble. You took advantage of my illness and stole my family fortune. I sat quietly at the end of the massive oak table, watching my mother-in-law's performance with practiced patience. Around us, the entire family shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Aunts, uncles, cousins all gathered for what they thought would be a regular Sunday dinner. My name is Olivia Turner, and at 34, I was being accused of stealing $4 million from my mother-in-law, the same woman who'd spent the last 8 years trying to drive me away from her precious son, James. Mom, please calm down, James started, but Patricia cut him off with a wave of her perfectly manicured hand. Don't defend her. While I was in the hospital, she convinced me to sign papers. She took everything. Patricia's voice cracked with well-practiced emotion. The accounts are empty. My mother's jewelry, the summer house, all gone. I took a sip of water, letting the accusations wash over me. The family's eyes burned into me, some with shock, others with already formed judgment. My sister-in-law, Amanda, smirked from across the table, clearly enjoying the show. Olivia, my father-in-law, George, spoke up, his voice heavy with disappointment. If this is true, we'll have to involve the authorities. I placed my glass down carefully, the soft clink somehow loud in the tense room. Would you like to know what really happened? I asked, my voice steady. We know what happened. Patricia shrieked. I have proof. Show them, Amanda. Amanda pulled out a stack of bank statements, passing them around the table. The accounts were drained 3 months ago, she announced triumphantly, right when Mom was having her surgery. And guess who had power of attorney? The statements made their way around the table, accompanied by gasps and whispers. I waited until everyone had seen them before speaking again. Interesting timing, I said, opening my bag. Would you like to explain why you were photographed at the Golden Lotus Casino that same week, Patricia, when you were supposedly too ill to leave the hospital? The color drained from Patricia's face. What are you talking about? I pulled out an envelope and removed its contents slowly. You see, after James and I got married, I learned quickly to document everything. Every conversation, every transaction, every power of attorney form you tried to get me to sign. What is she talking about, Mom? James asked, his attention fully focused on his mother now. She's lying. Patricia stammered, but her confidence was cracking. I laid out the photos one by one. Patricia at the casino, very much alive and well, playing high-stakes poker. Patricia meeting with known loan sharks in the parking lot. Security camera stills of her making massive withdrawals from the family accounts. The money didn't disappear because I stole it, I said calmly. It disappeared because of gambling debts. $4 million, lost at the tables over the past year. The room erupted in chaos. Amanda lunged for the photos, but James caught her arm. George stared at the evidence, his face ashen. That's not all, I continued, pulling out a USB drive. I have video footage of every meeting with the loan sharks, every threatening phone call they made to the house. Would you like to explain why they were calling you Patty the Poker Queen, Patricia? Patricia's carefully constructed accusation was crumbling. She looked wildly around the room, searching for allies, but found only shocked and horrified faces. You don't understand, she pleaded. I was going to win it back. I had a system. A system that cost your family their inheritance, I said softly. And then you tried to pin it all on me. James stood up slowly, his face a mask of disbelief. Mom, how could you? I did it for you, Patricia cried. That woman, she's not good enough for you. I thought if I could just win big once, I could show you that you don't need her. The irony of her statement hung heavy in the air. If I hadn't been documenting everything, if I hadn't been protecting myself and the family's assets, her gambling addiction would have remained hidden until everything was gone. There's more, I said, pulling out one final document. This is a contract from 3 days ago. Patricia tried to take out a loan against the summer house, the one she claims I stole. She forged my signature since the house is in my name. George finally found his voice. Patricia, tell me this isn't true. But Patricia had no more lies left. She collapsed into her chair, tears streaming down her face. Real ones this time, not the calculated performance from earlier. The family meeting had turned into something none of them expected. As the truth sank in, I could see the shock and betrayal on their faces. The fortune that had been in their family for generations, gambled away by the woman who'd spent years painting me as the gold digger. I have a plan to fix this, I said, reaching for another envelope in my bag. If you're willing to listen. The room fell silent, all eyes now turned to me, not with accusation, but with desperate hope. Patricia's sobs were the only sound as I pulled out the document that would change everything. I opened the envelope slowly, aware of every eye in the room fixed on me. Before I show you this, I said, you need to understand something. I've spent the last 8 years being treated like an outsider, watched like a thief, and accused of being after the family money. But I love James, and that means his family is my family, whether you like it or not. Patricia's sobs quieted as she watched me through mascara-stained eyes. Amanda leaned forward, her previous smugness replaced by barely concealed curiosity. 3 months ago, when I discovered the extent of Patricia's gambling, I contacted Harrison Cooper. The family lawyer? George interrupted, his face puzzled. Yes. Together, we created a financial recovery plan. I laid out a document filled with legal terms and numbers. I've used my inheritance from my grandmother to buy back the debts Patricia accumulated. Every single one. The silence in the room was deafening. James reached for my hand under the table, squeezing it tight. You? What? Patricia whispered. The loan sharks, the casino debts, everything. It's all been consolidated and transferred to me. I met Patricia's eyes steadily. Instead of destroying this family, you'll repay me, with reasonable interest, through a structured payment plan. Amanda snorted. And how exactly is Mom supposed to pay you back? You've just shown everyone she has no money left. I pulled out another paper. The summer house, the one Patricia tried to take a loan against. I'm willing to let her and George continue living there, but the rental income from the beach units will go toward repaying the debt. George studied the documents, his financial background helping him understand the implications. This could actually work, he said slowly. But Olivia, why would you do this? After everything? I thought about the family photos lining the hallway, generations of Turners looking down at us. Because some things are worth more than money. This family's legacy, James's inheritance, the home you built. I couldn't watch it all disappear. Patricia stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. For a moment, I thought she might start screaming again. Instead, she walked unsteadily around the table until she reached my chair. I've been horrible to you, she said, her voice breaking. From the day James brought you home, I tried to prove you were after our money. And now you're the one saving us from my mistakes. Mom, James started, but Patricia held up her hand. No, let me finish. I need help, she admitted, the words seemingly painful to say. The gambling. I can't stop on my own. I've tried, but I pulled out one final document. There's a condition to my help. You need to enter rehabilitation. I've already found a program specializing in gambling addiction. They're expecting you next week. Amanda stood up, her face flushed. This is ridiculous. You're trying to control everything, just like always. Mom doesn't need. Sit down, Amanda. George's stern voice cut through her protest. Your mother absolutely needs help, and we're fortunate Olivia cared enough to arrange it. The next hour was spent going through the details of the repayment plan. I explained how the rental income would be managed, how Patricia's rehabilitation would be structured, and how the family assets would be protected moving forward. There's one more thing, I said, as the meeting was winding down. I've arranged for a family counselor. We all need to heal from this, not just Patricia. Years of suspicion and accusations have left their marks on everyone. Looking around the table, I could see the truth of my words reflected in their faces. The proud Turner family, brought to their knees not by an outsider's greed as they feared, but by one of their own. As people began to leave, Patricia caught my arm. Her earlier mascara tracks had dried, leaving dark streaks on her cheeks. Why did you expose me right away, when you first found out? I thought carefully before answering. Because destroying you would have hurt James, and despite everything, you're his mother. Sometimes protecting the people we love means protecting them from themselves. She nodded slowly, understanding finally dawning in her eyes. As she and George left for what would be one of their last nights at home before her rehabilitation began, I felt James's arms wrap around me from behind. You're remarkable, he whispered into my hair. All these years you've been protecting us, haven't you? I turned in his embrace, seeing the mix of love and regret in his eyes. I protected what matters. The rest? We'll work on it. Together. The dining room was empty now, the evidence of our family drama scattered across the table. Bank statements, photos, recovery plans. I began gathering them up, knowing they represented not just the end of one chapter, but the beginning of another. The path forward wouldn't be easy. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. But as I looked at the family photos on the wall, I knew we'd taken the first step toward healing. Sometimes the strongest families are the ones that have been broken and pieced back together, held tight by forgiveness and understanding. James helped me collect the last of the papers, our movements in sync after 8 years of marriage. Ready to go home? He asked softly. I nodded, taking one last look around the room where everything had changed. Yes, I replied. But this isn't over. It's just beginning. 6 months after that explosive family dinner, I stood in the doorway of the summer house, watching the sunrise over the beach. The rental units were doing well, their income steadily chipping away at Patricia's debt. But more importantly, the family was healing. Patricia had completed her initial rehabilitation program and was now attending regular GA meetings. The woman who returned was different from the one who'd left, humbler, more self-aware, and working hard to rebuild the trust she'd broken. Coffee. James appeared beside me, holding out a steaming mug. Thanks, I said, accepting it gratefully. We were spending the weekend helping his parents settle back into the house after Patricia's return from rehab. Inside, I could hear George and Patricia moving around the kitchen, their voices soft but clear. There was a new tenderness between them now, born from nearly losing everything. Olivia? Patricia called from inside. Could you come help me with something? I found her sitting at the kitchen table, a large box in front of her. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it, revealing stacks of old photographs and documents. I've been going through everything during therapy, she said, pulling out a photo album. Part of making amends is acknowledging the past. Look at this. It was a picture from my wedding day, one I'd never seen before. In it, I was helping Patricia with her corsage, both of us laughing at something long forgotten. The joy in that moment was genuine, before years of suspicion and resentment had taken their toll. I was so wrong about you, Patricia said quietly. I was so convinced you were a threat to our family that I became the threat myself. I sat down beside her, looking through more photos. We can't change the past, I replied, but we can build a better future. The family counseling sessions had been challenging but necessary. Amanda initially refused to attend, but after seeing the positive changes in her mother, she finally joined us. Slowly, painfully, we began to address the years of dysfunction that had led us here. The rental income is exceeding projections, George mentioned over breakfast, his business mind never far from the numbers. At this rate, we might be able to accelerate the repayment schedule. Let's stick to the plan, I suggested gently. This isn't just about the money anymore. Patricia nodded in agreement. One day at a time, she said, echoing her GA mantra. In the meetings, they teach us that rushing to fix things can sometimes make them worse. Later that afternoon, as James and I walked along the beach, he suddenly stopped and turned to me. You know what today is? I thought for a moment and smiled. 8 years and 6 months since our wedding day. 8 years and 6 months of you fighting for this family, he corrected, even when we didn't deserve it. I watched the waves crash against the shore, thinking about everything that had happened. Family isn't about deserving, I said finally. It's about choosing to stay, even when it's hard. Back at the house, Amanda had arrived with her husband. There was still tension, but it was softening. She brought dessert, my favorite chocolate cake from the bakery across town. A small gesture, but a meaningful one. As we sat around the dinner table that evening, the same family, but fundamentally changed, Patricia cleared her throat. I've been working on something, she announced, pulling out a notebook. My therapist suggested writing letters to everyone I've hurt. I'd like to read them if you're willing to listen. We sat in silence as she read, her words full of genuine remorse and hope for the future. There were tears, not the manipulative ones from before, but real, healing tears that needed to be shed. When she finished, George reached for her hand. James squeezed my shoulder. Even Amanda looked moved. This is what family should be, I said softly. Not perfect, but honest. Not flawless, but willing to grow. The sun was setting over the ocean, casting long shadows through the windows. Outside, the rental units were full of happy vacationers, unaware that their stay was helping piece a family back together. The recovery plan I created wasn't just about money, it was about rebuilding trust one day at a time. Patricia's gambling addiction had nearly destroyed everything, but in facing it, we found a strength we never knew we had. As I looked around the table at these people who had become my family, through blood, marriage, and choice, I realized that sometimes the greatest fortune isn't the one kept in bank accounts. It's the one built through forgiveness, understanding, and the courage to face hard truths together. The $4 million would eventually be repaid, but what we gained in its place was worth far more. We gained a real family, one that had faced its demons and chosen to rise above them together.